The moment everyone believed the alien girl would die, a single human made the most impossible choice of his life. Doctors had already stopped trying. Machines in the medical bay had begun shutting down one by one. The girl's heart rhythm was fading into silence. Every expert on the station had reached the same cold conclusion. She would not survive the night. But one human refused to accept that answer. And in a quiet medical room floating in deep space, that stubborn human decision was about to start something that no alien civilization had ever predicted. Aurora Outpost was not an important place. It was a small research station drifting near the border of explored space. Most of the time, nothing exciting happened there. Scientists studied strange cosmic signals, engineers repaired equipment, and a handful of alien researchers worked together with humans. Peaceful, quiet, predictable, until the crash. 3 days earlier, long-range sensors detected a ship falling toward the nearby asteroid field. It was not human technology. The vessel looked like a silver star breaking apart as it entered the system. Rescue teams rushed out immediately. When they reached the wreckage, they found only one survivor. A young alien girl. Her species was called the Narration. They were known across the galaxy as gentle thinkers and brilliant navigators. Their bodies were unlike anything humans had seen before. Their skin carried faint glowing lines like tiny rivers of light moving beneath the surface. But those lights were fading. By the time the rescue shuttle returned to Aurora Outpost, the girl was already dying. Inside the medical bay, every doctor on the station worked for hours trying to stabilize her. Alien medical systems were brought online. Human equipment was recalibrated. Even experimental hybrid treatments were attempted. Nothing worked. Her body rejected everything. Dr. Cale Moreno, the chief medical officer, finally stepped away from the diagnostic console with tired eyes. Her biological systems are collapsing, he said quietly. Her neural signals are fading. A young technician stared at the monitor in disbelief. There must be something else we can try. Cale shook his head slowly. We already tried everything. The machines beside the bed continued their slow, lonely beeping. Everyone in the room understood what that sound meant. Time was running out. One by one, the doctors left the room. Reports needed to be filed. Protocol required them to record the first known death of a Narration on a human station. But one person didn't leave. A quiet engineer named Jonas Hale remained beside the bed. Jonas was not a doctor. He was not a scientist. He was simply the station systems engineer, the man who repaired broken doors, malfunctioning gravity panels, and overheating reactor circuits. Yet he stood beside the dying alien girl as if he belonged there. Dr. Moreno noticed him near the door. Jonas, he said gently, you should get some rest. Jonas didn't move. She's alone. Moreno sighed. She's unconscious. Jonas looked at the fragile figure on the bed. Maybe, he said softly, but that doesn't mean someone shouldn't stay. The doctor paused for a moment. Then he quietly left the room. Now the medical bay contained only 3 things. A dying alien, a stubborn human, and the silent stars outside the window. Jonas pulled a chair next to the bed. Well, he said awkwardly, this is probably the strangest night of my life. The alien girl didn't move. Her breathing remained slow and shallow. Jonas scratched his head. I'm not exactly a doctor, he admitted. I fix broken machines. He glanced at the glowing lines under her skin. Unfortunately, alien biology isn't really my specialty. For a moment the room stayed silent. Then Jonas reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It wasn't medical equipment. It was an old Earth sound player. He placed it on the table and activated it. Soft sounds filled the room. Ocean waves. Wind moving through trees. Birds singing in the morning sunlight. Natural sounds from Earth. Jonas leaned back in the chair. On my planet, he explained quietly, these sounds help people relax. He looked at the alien girl. Worth trying, right? Hours passed. Nothing happened. The machines continued their slow rhythm. Jonas almost fell asleep. Then suddenly, Beep. He sat upright. One of the monitors flickered. The alien girl's neural activity had increased slightly. Very slightly. Jonas leaned forward. That's weird. He checked the display again. Her brain activity had increased by 0.01%. That should not have been possible. He stared at the screen. Then something even stranger happened. The girl's fingers moved. Just a little. Barely noticeable. But Jonas saw it. "Hey," he whispered. Her hand twitched again. Jonas quickly grabbed the communication console. "Medical team, you might want to come back." Before he finished speaking, the girl's eyes slowly opened. They were bright silver. Strange. Beautiful. And completely confused. She looked directly at Jonas. The human froze. "Well, hi." The alien girl blinked slowly. Her voice was weak, barely a whisper. But the words were clear. "Human." Jonas laughed nervously. "Yeah, that's me." Her glowing eyes studied him carefully. Then she said something that made his stomach tighten. "You are not supposed to be here." Jonas frowned. "I live here." But the girl wasn't finished. She gripped his hand weakly. "They are coming." At that exact moment, Aurora Outpost's alarm system exploded into sound. Warning lights flashed red across the entire station. On the command deck, officers rushed to their consoles. "Unknown fleet detected." Commander Rear Calder looked up sharply. "How many ships?" The sensor officer swallowed. 30. The room went silent. The holographic display lit up with massive silhouettes entering the system. Alien warships. Huge. Heavily armed. Moving directly toward Aurora Outpost. Back in the medical bay, Jonas looked at the frightened alien girl. "Those ships," he asked quietly, "are they looking for you?" The girl nodded slowly. Her voice trembled. "They must not take me." Jonas felt a cold chill run through him. "Why?" The girl closed her eyes for a moment. When she spoke again, her words carried the weight of something terrifying. "Because inside my mind is the map that controls every fast path in the galaxy." Jonas blinked. "That sounds important." The girl's glowing eyes opened again. "If they capture me," she whispered, "they will control every civilization." Outside the station window, 30 alien warships continued their slow approach. And Jonas suddenly realized something very frightening. Saving one alien girl might have just started a galactic war. The moment the alarms began screaming across Aurora Outpost, every person on the station understood something terrifying. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a hunt. And the target was the alien girl lying in the medical bay. Commander Rear Calder stood at the center of the command deck, staring at the holographic display of the incoming fleet. 30 alien warships moved through space with frightening precision. Their formation was perfect, like blades sliding through darkness. Aurora Outpost was never meant for war. It had a few security drones, light shielding, and some experimental equipment used for research. Nothing close to what a fleet of war cruisers carried. A technician spoke with a nervous voice. "Commander, they are opening a communication channel." "Put it through." The speakers across the deck came alive with a deep mechanical voice translated by the station AI. "This system is now under the authority of the Zirath Dominion." The room became silent. "Return the Nerin subject immediately. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of this station." Several officers looked at each other. They did not even try to hide the threat. Commander Calder crossed her arms. They came prepared. Back in the medical bay, Jonas Hale had just finished explaining the situation to the alien girl. Her name was Ayla. She listened quietly, her glowing eyes slowly scanning the room as if she was calculating something much larger than the walls around her. "They found me faster than expected," she whispered. Jonas leaned against the console. "That fleet out there seems very motivated." Ayla nodded. "The Zirath Dominion believes power comes from control. and the map inside my mind gives them control over every fast route between star systems. Jonas rubbed his chin. So if they capture you, they control the galaxy. Jonas exhaled slowly. Well, that's not great. Ayla looked directly at him. You must give me to them. Jonas blinked. What? If you surrender me, she said softly, they will leave your people alive. Jonas stared at her for a moment. Then he shook his head. No. Ayla looked confused. You do not understand the danger. Oh, I understand perfectly, Jonas said. Outside the window the distant fleet grew larger. 30 warships pointing guns at my home tends to get the message across. Then why refuse? Jonas thought for a moment. Then he gave the most human answer possible. Because someone needed help. For the first time since waking up, Ayla looked truly surprised. Meanwhile, the command deck continued preparing for the worst. Commander Calder watched the tactical map carefully. How long until they reach firing range? 8 minutes. Shields. Minimal. Evacuation. Impossible. Their ships are already blocking the outer system. The situation was clear. Aurora Outpost could not run. They could not fight. And they could not hide. Which meant only one option remained. Think like humans. Jonas suddenly rushed onto the command deck, still wearing his engineering uniform. Commander Calder raised an eyebrow. Engineer Hale, this is not the time. I have an idea. That sentence always made commanders nervous. Calder sighed. Of course you do. Jonas pointed at the holographic map of the system. What do we know about the Zirath? A science officer answered. They are extremely advanced. Their navigation systems are among the best in the galaxy. Jonas smiled. Perfect. Calder narrowed her eyes. That word rarely means something good when engineers say it. Jonas zoomed the display outward. The star system surrounding Aurora Outpost was filled with asteroid belts and unstable gravity pockets created by a nearby dying star. These ships rely on perfect calculations, he explained. Precise navigation. Stable gravitational models. Everyone in the room nodded. That's how most advanced civilizations travel. Jonas grinned. Humans don't. The officers looked confused. What are you proposing? Calder asked. Jonas tapped a small blinking icon on the display. Aurora Outpost's experimental gravity manipulation array. It was designed to study cosmic anomalies, not fight fleets. But Jonas had spent years repairing and modifying it. What if, he said slowly, we turn the entire system into a giant gravitational puzzle? Silence spread across the command deck. The science officer looked horrified. That would make navigation impossible. Jonas nodded. Exactly. Commander Calder leaned forward. That would also trap us here. Also true. And possibly destroy half the station. Jonas shrugged. Engineering is a risky profession. Calder stared at him. You are suggesting we deliberately break the laws of safe physics. Jonas smiled. Humans break things all the time. Outside the station, the Zirath fleet continued moving closer. Their largest cruiser powered up a massive energy cannon that glowed like a newborn star. The alien commander transmitted another message. This is your final warning. Return the Nerin subject. Commander Calder looked at Jonas. How confident are you? Jonas scratched the back of his head. Honestly. Yes. Maybe 50%. The room went silent. Calder smiled slightly. Those are good human odds. She turned to the crew. Activate the gravity array. Deep inside the station, massive engines began powering up. Energy surged through ancient experimental systems that had never been pushed this far before. Outside in space, something strange began to happen. Gravity started shifting. Invisible waves spread through the system like ripples across water. Asteroids changed direction. Space itself twisted. On the bridge of the Zirath flagship, alarms exploded across their consoles. Unknown gravitational distortion detected. Navigation errors increasing. The alien commander frowned. Adjust course. But the course would not adjust. Every calculation changed faster than their systems could update. The entire star system had become unstable. Back on Aurora Outpost, Jonas watched the tactical display with excitement. "Look at that," he whispered. The perfectly organized alien fleet began drifting out of formation. Ships struggled to maintain stable routes. Warp engines failed to align. Two cruisers nearly collided. Commander Calder crossed her arms. They didn't expect chaos. Jonas nodded. Most advanced civilizations rely on perfect systems. He smiled proudly. Humans rely on improvisation. But the celebration didn't last long. A tactical officer suddenly spoke. "They are adapting." On the display, the alien ships slowly began adjusting their course calculations. The Zirath fleet was learning how to navigate the chaotic gravity waves. Commander Calder looked at the timer. They will regain control in 7 minutes. 7 minutes was not enough time to win a battle. But it might be enough time for one more human idea. Back in the medical bay, Ayla stood beside the observation window, watching the stars twist in unnatural patterns. "You turned the system into a trap," she said. Jonas nodded. "Temporary trap. The Zirath will escape." "Probably." Ayla studied him carefully. "You still plan something else?" Jonas smiled. "Working on it." She looked toward the distant warships. "They will not stop hunting me." Jonas stared at the stars for a moment. Then he said something quietly. "Then maybe we stop them from hunting anyone ever again." Ayla turned toward him slowly. "What do you mean?" Jonas looked at her glowing silver eyes. "You said the map in your mind controls the fastest paths in the galaxy." "Yes." Jonas took a deep breath. "Then maybe it's time we change the map." Outside the window, the Zirath fleet continued fighting their way through the gravitational storm. And somewhere in the chaos of the twisting star system, a new human plan was beginning to form. The Zirath fleet was learning. That was the problem. What had started as a perfect trap was slowly turning into a race against time. One by one, the alien ships were adjusting their engines and recalculating their courses. Their navigation systems were powerful, and their commanders were experienced. On the command deck of Aurora Outpost, the tactical screen told the story clearly. Red icons representing Zirath warships were stabilizing. "They're regaining formation," an officer reported. Commander Rear Calder studied the display carefully. "How long before they can fire?" 4 minutes. That number hung in the air like a ticking bomb. 4 minutes before 30 warships could erase Aurora Outpost from existence. But Jonas Hale was not looking at the fleet. He was looking at Ayla. Inside the medical bay, the alien girl stood beside the console. Her strength had returned slowly, but her glowing silver eyes were brighter now, filled with quiet determination. Jonas paced across the room, thinking faster than he had ever thought before. "What if the problem isn't the fleet?" he said suddenly. Ayla tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Jonas pointed toward the stars outside the window. "They came here for you. Because you carry the navigation map." "Yes." "So what if we change what that map means?" Ayla frowned slightly. "That is not possible." Jonas smiled. "Impossible things are basically humanity's specialty." She studied him for a moment. "What are you planning?" Jonas stopped pacing. "What if we don't just hide the map?" He leaned closer to the console. "What if we give it to everyone?" Ayla's glowing eyes widened. "That would change the entire balance of power." "Exactly." For centuries, powerful civilizations like the Zirath Dominion controlled major travel routes between star systems. Whoever controlled the fastest paths controlled trade, armies, and influence across the galaxy. But Ayla's mind held something different. A living map. A map that could reveal every hidden shortcut between the stars. Jonas looked at her seriously. If everyone has the map, nobody controls it. Ayla whispered quietly. You would break the galaxy's entire power structure. Jonas shrugged. Humans are pretty good at breaking old systems. Meanwhile, the Zirath fleet was finally pushing through the gravitational storm. On their flagship, the alien commander watched the tactical screen with cold focus. Stabilize formation. Yes, Commander. Prepare weapons. The massive cannons along the hull began charging again. The commander studied Aurora Outpost through the viewing display. Primitive, he said quietly. They relied on chaos. But chaos alone would not save them now. Within minutes, the Zirath fleet would have clear firing lines. And the station would be destroyed. Back on Aurora Outpost, Commander Calder entered the medical bay. Her voice was calm but urgent. You have 2 minutes before they regain firing control. Jonas nodded. That's enough. Ayla looked between the two humans. You truly plan to release the map to every civilization? Calder crossed her arms. What happens if we do? Ayla answered honestly. The galaxy will change forever. Jonas grinned. Good. He quickly began typing commands into the station's communication array. Aurora Outpost was not powerful enough to defeat a fleet. But it did have one advantage. A massive deep space transmitter designed to send research signals across huge distances. Jonas connected the transmitter to Ayla's neural interface. Ayla closed her eyes. Soft silver light began glowing around her head. The map inside her mind awakened. Streams of complex star routes flowed across the holographic display like glowing rivers across the galaxy. Commander Calder stared in amazement. Those are travel routes. Yes, Ayla whispered. Millions of them. Jonas began linking the map to the broadcast system. If this works, he said, every civilization listening will receive the same data. Ayla looked worried. The Zirath will receive it too. Jonas shrugged. They already had an advantage. Calder looked toward the command deck display. 1 minute. Outside the station, the Zirath fleet completed their final navigation adjustments. The gravitational storm still raged, but their ships were powerful enough to push through. Weapons were now fully charged. On the flagship, the alien commander gave the order. Prepare to fire. Across the fleet, cannons glowed with deadly energy. Aurora Outpost was seconds away from destruction. Inside the medical bay, Jonas pressed the final command. Ready. Ayla opened her glowing silver eyes. I will begin the transmission. Commander Calder nodded. Do it. A pulse of energy exploded outward from Aurora Outpost. Not a weapon. A signal. A powerful broadcast raced across the stars at the speed of light. It carried something no civilization had ever possessed before. The complete living map of the galaxy. Hidden routes. Secret pathways. Instant travel corridors between distant star systems. Every major civilization monitoring deep space suddenly received the same transmission. Trade networks. Military fleets. Exploration ships. Research stations. All of them saw the same impossible data. The galaxy had just become open to everyone. On the Zirath flagship, alarms exploded across the command deck. Commander. What is it? The subject has transmitted the navigation network. The alien commander's eyes widened. To whom? The officer looked stunned. Everyone. For the first time, the commander looked truly shocked. That cannot be undone. Across the galaxy, millions of ships began recalculating new travel paths using the newly revealed routes. Centuries of controlled power structures had just collapsed, and the Zirath Dominion's greatest advantage had vanished. The alien commander stared at Aurora Outpost in silence. He slowly lowered his clawed hand. Stand down. The weapons powering across the fleet slowly shut down. His officers looked confused. But, Commander. The map is public now, he said quietly. The war is already lost. He opened a communication channel to the station. Commander Calder appeared on the screen. The alien commander studied her carefully. "You have done something dangerous today." Calder smiled slightly. "Humanity tends to do that." The commander nodded slowly. "You are not the strongest species in the galaxy." He paused. "But you may be the most disruptive." Calder raised an eyebrow. "We prefer the word creative." The transmission ended. Moments later, the Zirath fleet turned away from Aurora Outpost and began leaving the system. Hours later, silence returned to the station. The crisis was over. Jonas stood beside the observation window with Ayla. The stars outside looked different now. The galaxy had changed. Ayla spoke softly. "Your species gave away the most valuable map in existence." Jonas shrugged. "Power is dangerous when only a few people have it." She looked at him with curiosity. "You truly believe the galaxy will be better now?" Jonas smiled. "I believe more people will get a chance." Ayla nodded slowly. "My people will remember this." Jonas looked out at the endless stars. "Good." Across the galaxy, civilizations began exploring new routes that had been hidden for centuries. And in thousands of alien databases, a new note quietly appeared beside humanity's file. Humans, unpredictable, creative, and dangerously compassionate.